Right, now we've got the entire left side completed, and I took the time to spin all of these so that whenever the controller is facing up, I can see all of my my labels on my pigtails. As the next step in building our controller, now that we have everything attached, the next step is actually to make our data connection to the board. Now, this controller has XLR connections, which in stage lighting and so forth, which is the industry standard, they use XLR connections, which are three-pronged to connect data. But in my application for the show, I want to use the RJ45 network connections. So what I've done here is I've done some pre-setup work. What I've done is I've taken some network wire, and this is just a scrap piece that I was playing with to make a connection really quick, and I unsheathed it and I separated all of the pairs. Actually, I didn't separate the pairs. I left the pairs together, and I cut a piece long enough to go from here all the way to the board. Now, what I did was I took the orange and the orange stripe, the blue and the blue stripe wires out of the pairs, and I twisted them together. And on this one here, I'll zoom in because we're going to do some fine work here. And I know the people who don't know how to solder are going to want to see this. I actually stripped the ends of these, and I'm leaving these ends on them. Now what I've done here, and I want to explain this so you get it, what I've done here is I have taken the solid colors, the solid orange and the solid blue. I twisted those ends together, and I'm about to tin these. And all I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a soldering iron, and honestly, this soldering iron came from MCM Electronics, and once again, I'm very thrifty. I don't pay a lot for them, so I only spent, I think I paid $3.99 for this little guy. This is probably the cheapest soldering iron I could find. Now, what I did there was I just used a little bit of Brillo pad there and just scratched off the old solder that was on the top. And now I'm going to just tin the end just a little bit with some solder. This is rosin core solder. And that's all I'm going to do to tin the end of the tip. And now I'm going to hold the soldering iron right against the wire. And then from the other side, I am going to take my solder and just go over the tip so that there is some solder on the tip. Alright, maybe I can zoom in even more. Yeah, look at that. It's going to be as close as I can get. I'm going to hold it against the wire from the back, and then I'm going to push forward from the front and add the solder. Now I got a lot of solder left on my tip here. I'm going to go clean it off over here in my tray. This was a very inexpensive holder, and I think I only paid $7 for the holder. So for this whole little soldering setup, and I think this was $4 for these little hands, all from MCM. This is pretty cheap for a soldering iron setup. I'm going to add some solder to these pads that are in here, and I'm just going to touch the outside of the pad. And I'm going to add the solder from the opposite ends. And if you look pretty close there, that made a bubble, a shiny bubble. I'm going to do the same thing to the center pad. Touching it, and then touching the solder to the opposite side. And I want my soldered pairs to be the solid on the inside, and the striped on the outside. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat the pad with the tip of the soldering iron, and then I'm going to add the wire. Oop. And I just cheated there, but that's okay. And you can see that that center pad now is soldered in place. By the way, I'm left-handed, and this is my soldering hand, and I'm soldering with my right hand. So if I can do this, anybody can do this. So now I'm going to just move in, and I'm going to do the same thing to this side. and now it's soldered in place. What we need to do is we need to inspect the work and make sure that the work is connected and there's no bridged solder joints. And it's kind of hard to do because the camera has that light on it. But as you can see here, there's no bridged solder joints. Although it is a little messy, I want to touch it up only because I want to make sure that that connection there is valid connection. The next step is to connect this wire up to the RJ45 connections. I'm going to use my thumb in the center, and I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab this. This is the striped. This is our data positive. It goes to the number 1, and I'm just going to push down, and it's locked in place. Now, you probably can't, well, maybe you can see, there's a very, very close, very fine area for this wire to slip into. And if you look, there's 2 wires that actually strip the wire and make the wire connection to the board. And all we're doing, we don't have to strip these here. All we're doing is we're just stripping the wire as we push down using our thumb, just like that. So now, when we connect this up to a computer network wire with DMX running, this light here on the board will come on, and whenever it gets data, this light will flash. It will flash sort of rapidly, but that tells you that there's actually data coming into the board through your positive and your neutral. I wanted to bring this out from storage. I had this in the basement. This ran one of the controllers. This is one of the controllers that I used to run my 7-tree twig tree line. The next step of me building is I want to weatherproof the box in some manner. And this is how I had originally done it. And the lid actually fits right over top, nice and solid. And I let this lay right on the ground. This sat right on the ground. And it had probably 30 inches of snow all through the season on top of it. But what I realized is that if I wanted to set this up this way, that I might have an issue with getting some water in here. And it's kind of hard to see, but you can see how it's not even. I didn't use really wide weather stripping. That was stuff I had laying around. Since then, I picked up a little bit wider stuff, a little wider stock. And what I want to do this year is, instead of putting it on the inside, I'll put it on the outside here. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm just going to lay this out just like this. The next step, I'll put this on top, and I'll actually put it on another controller, and you can see how good and sealed it's. Okay, so here it is, the completed project. What I did was I stuck it right on top of the box, and I'm just pushing it down now, kind of creating the seal. And if I turn this around and I look at it from underneath here, now I see the weather stripping peeking through the edges, which is what I want. I see it peeking through the edges there. A little bit, there's a little more through here. And that for me is probably going to make a better sealing connection than last year's model did. Two core wire, and I found this off of an appliance. Cut this open. Now I'm going to strip these wires. I can use these wire strippers, but I much prefer my other wire strippers, which are way faster and can do 2 or more at a time. I'll just put those wires on there together, and I can give these a long enough lead. Just click and pull, and I can just pull them off. And there, I've got 2 wires. Now I'm going to go back over to my soldering iron, and I'm going to grab my helping hands here to do this. Just going to hold this like this, and maybe I'll zoom in because everybody likes to see soldering and how it's done. All I'm doing here is I'm tinning the end of the soldering iron. Helps disperse the heat from the iron to the wire. Now, whenever you solder, you solder the back side, you put the iron to the back, and you touch to the front. And as the wire gets hot enough, it'll take in all of the solder that you want to put onto it. So it's got plenty of solder on it now. And we'll go to the other one. And I'm just holding the solder to it, and the solder will start to melt whenever that copper gets hot enough. How about I put a little solder on there? There we go. Slide right through our strain relief. Now we know from simple electronics that the neutral in 110 voltage, we use the white as the neutral, and we use black as our hot wire or back positive. In there. We got a nice solid connection with that solder, and then we'll crimp it down. There you go. Now we just need to tighten our strain relief down. We'll do that. I'll put the camera on pause. We'll do that, and then we'll do a quick little test. And here we are. Here's a RGB snowflake I made out of a find from Goodwill. I found 3 of these for $1. And the video you're watching is actually a how-to video on soldering a pigtail onto the dumb RGBs, which I shot just after building that controller board. I am letting the controller cycle through the test pattern, which I didn't go over. The controller has a dip switch setting, number 10, that whenever you turn number 10 on, this controller goes into a test pattern or test mode. So it goes through all the cycles of colors and so forth. That's pretty much it for the video, guys. The controller is done. Actually, I have 5 of those done and another one completed. I hope that this video was helpful and may give you some ideas. Please leave your questions or comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to this YouTube channel. I have a lot of setup to go through this year, and as I come up with things, I'm going to be posting up videos left and right. So please make sure you're tuned in and signed in so that you get the notices. You can also find some other projects and pictures on my Facebook show page. You don't need to be a member of Facebook to view the page. Just click on it. Just click on Facebook, and well, actually just go to the website address, facebook.com/Leechburg Lights, and it'll take you right there. And I have a ton of pictures and photos, and I keep it updated weekly or bi-weekly, especially during the holidays. Every other day I'm posting. So that's all for now. This is Clyde signing out here at Leechburg Lights. Take care.